Good morning. This is Larry Lees, Mayor of Pryor, Oklahoma. I want to take an opportunity to just have a conversation this morning and express some of the things that we passed in our city council meeting last night that have to do with all of us in Pryor. Our ordinance number 2020-10 last night was amended and it was updated. The first ordinance we did was last week, and because we're in a fluid situation regarding COVID-19, then we're having updates to this ordinance. This is an important update, and although it's a difficult time, I want to encourage everyone to engage. In a nutshell, we are now restricting all of our citizens of the public at large to stay at home. Also, the component of having a curfew. So we've established a curfew for all citizens, and it's from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. During that time where need not to be on the roads, need not to be out in the public. Before, we had some exceptions to some of the restrictions of businesses, and those exceptions have been eliminated so that we can practice social distancing in the very best and most meaningful way. So let me give some explanation about those things, and I'm going to read a little bit from the ordinance here. Item F in section 1 of the ordinance says, citizens, residents, and visitors within the city limits of Pryor Creek shall stay at their home, place of residence, or temporary living quarters, except when being engaged in traveling to and from work or while engaging in work activities in a critical infrastructure sector, as more particularly described in one of the other paragraphs, and is as in conducting essential errands. So essential errands shall mean those errands which are critical to everyday life and include obtaining medications, groceries, gasoline, and visiting medical providers. A further exclusion to the provisions in this paragraph shall be for personal mental health and exercise as set forth in paragraph H. That means that we need to remain at our residence except for going to work, except for running the essential errands that have to do with health and safety. I got 2 calls this morning from 2 pastors, and I am amazed about how creative that we can be when it comes to our worship. And although worship is not listed in our ordinance, the component of worship is for personal mental health and our personal health as it has to do with our spiritual life. So as we practice our social distancing as it has to do with attending church, well, churches have been creative. We have online, we have Facebook, we go to a website, we're able to see live stream, or we're able to see a recording of worship music from perhaps a previous church service. But one of the pastors had an idea, and it was this. It was to have an outside worship service. So you would take people who are social distancing and are staying at home, and you take that home and you make it mobile and you put it in your vehicle and you drive to a church parking lot, whereby you would connect to an FM radio station and the worship service would be outside. And so congregants could be together, but could be separated, tuned into the radio station where you would get preaching and teaching and also worship music and prayer. And so that's one of the things that one of our churches are doing here in town, and my hat's off to them. And that's okay, that's good. So in doing so, we're still practicing social distancing and trying to be as normal with our worship and with our convictions as we can be. Also, item G has to do with curfew. It says curfew is hereby imposed on all persons within city limits of City of Pryor Creek, requiring that no person shall be upon the streets or in any other public place between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Excepted from this requirement are individuals acting in the activities of traveling to and from work or while engaged in work activities in a critical infrastructure sector of essential errands as described in the preceding paragraph. And I just read that. So perhaps a review of the critical infrastructure sectors. Those are defined. You can find those on our website. I won't mention all of those. The exceptions that we had before had to do with individual appointments with hair salons or with nail salons or with tanning salons, whatever they might be. For the purpose of the social distancing and the purpose of abiding by this ordinance, we are now not able to do that. So as I've answered questions this week about that, many of the salons have chosen to close on their own. There have been a few who have chosen to make individual appointments. And I'm sorry to say that that option is no longer going to be available. That means that my hair, I'm going to go back to the 1970s, I suppose, and let the hair grow out, but that's all right. All of these provisions are from today, which is April the 1st, through April the 21st. So it may be extended from that, but we decided that for the 3 weeks that would be most appropriate. Also, one of the components that we're doing is we're closing the playground equipment in our parks and also in our schools. So what that means is you can go to the parks, and the parks are going to have the walking paths, they're going to have the green spaces, all those places are going to be open, but the swing sets, the basketball goals, the tennis courts are going to be barricaded off. Also, anything that is a playground equipment that will be off limits. Also, consistent with the parks is our golf course. I know some of you are golfers. I'm a golfer, and it's part of our culture. But for the next 3 weeks, the golf course will be closed, and that's most appropriate during this time. One of the things that has happened today is that our animal shelter has been suspended the adoptions and is now closed to the public. So if you have any questions about the function of the animal shelter, I'd go ahead and call the animal shelter, and they'll be happy to talk to you. There will still be staff there, but it will be closed to the public, like our library and like our rec center is closed to the public. I want to encourage everyone through this time to take personal responsibility. We are fighting a war against an invisible enemy. The only way that enemy can be defeated, the COVID-19 virus, the only way it can be defeated is by social distancing. The virus won't survive if it can't have a host and if it can't pass along to others. The only way it passes along to others is by individual contact. So the social distancing piece is something that will kill the virus over time, but it will take time. The personal responsibility comes into play because we don't know if we are a carrier or a host of the virus. We don't know if somebody else is a carrier or a host of the virus. Because of that, the social distancing, the shelter in place, which is a stay-at-home order because of this ordinance, that's all our responsibility. And I have to ask myself the question, do I want to take the responsibility of breathing life into somebody or breathing death into somebody? I mean, it's just as simple as that. So if I want to take the personal responsibility for you, then I practice the social distancing. The Centers of Disease Control yesterday expressed that in areas where they're doing, in towns, areas where they're doing what we're doing right now, they're flattening the curve and the virus is dying off. And they're not having as many people who are testing positive. That's where we want to be. It will take time, and it will take patience, and it will take perseverance. But I want to encourage you to practice social distancing. In doing so, we breathe life into others when we do that. join me, please join me in this effort to breathe life. Thank you very much.